For more than a century, one name has stood above every other watch brand: Rolex. It appears on the wrists of presidents, athletes, explorers, entrepreneurs, and collectors around the world. People wait years to buy one. Some pay twice the retail price just to own it. But here's the real question. How did a small company founded by a young immigrant become the most powerful name in luxury watches? The answer isn't just about craftsmanship. It's a story of ambition, innovation, brilliant marketing, and one of the strongest brands ever created. This is the story of how Rolex became far more than a watch. It became a symbol of success itself. The story begins long before Rolex became a global icon. In the early 20th century, wristwatches were often dismissed as fragile accessories. Most people trusted pocket watches instead. But one young businessman believed the future would be different. His name was Hans Wilsdorf. He imagined a watch small enough to wear every day, yet accurate enough to earn people's trust. In 1905, he founded a company in London with one clear vision: to build wristwatches that combined precision, reliability, and elegance. It was an ambitious goal, and it would change the watch industry forever. At the time, making a small watch accurate enough for daily use was an enormous challenge. Instead of accepting the industry's standards, Wilsdorf pushed for something better. Rolex worked with the finest movement makers and submitted its watches for independent testing. In 1914, a Rolex wristwatch received a Class A chronometer certificate from the Kew Observatory in England. This was an extraordinary achievement. It proved that a wristwatch could be just as precise as the finest marine chronometers of the era. From that moment, precision became part of Rolex's identity. Not as a slogan, but as a promise. Accuracy solved one problem. Durability was another. Dust and water regularly damaged the delicate movements inside early wristwatches. Rolex answered with a revolutionary idea. In 1926, it introduced the Oyster. Its case was tightly sealed, protecting the movement from water and dust like never before. It wasn't just another new model. It changed what people expected from a wristwatch. But Rolex still had one challenge left. The world needed proof. That proof came in an unforgettable way. In 1927, British swimmer Mercedes Gleitz attempted to swim across the English Channel while wearing a Rolex Oyster. The journey lasted for more than 10 hours in freezing water. When she reached shore, the watch was still running. Rolex didn't keep the achievement quiet. The company turned it into headlines around the world. For the first time, people saw a wristwatch not simply as jewelry, but as a dependable tool built for real life. It was a marketing breakthrough that helped define the Rolex name. Rolex wasn't finished innovating. In 1931, it introduced the perpetual movement, one of the world's first successful self-winding mechanisms with a rotating rotor. Instead of winding the watch by hand every day, normal wrist movement kept it running. It made ownership simpler, more reliable, and more practical. Together, the oyster case and the perpetual movement formed the foundation of the modern Rolex. The company was no longer following the industry. It was leading it. By the early 1950s, Rolex had built a reputation for precision and durability. Now it wanted to prove those qualities in the harshest environments on Earth. In 1953, Sir Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay became the first climbers confirmed to reach the summit of Mount Everest. Rolex watches were part of the expedition's equipment during that era, providing valuable real-world testing in extreme conditions. Inspired by these expeditions, Rolex introduced the Explorer. It wasn't designed as a luxury accessory. It was built for people who pushed beyond ordinary limits. From that moment on, exploration became part of the Rolex identity. The mountain had become more than an achievement. It had become a symbol. If the mountains tested one limit, the ocean tested another. Divers needed a watch they could trust beneath the surface. In 1953, Rolex answered with the Submariner. It was one of the first wristwatches designed specifically for professional diving. Its rotating bezel helped divers measure time underwater, while its water-resistant case protected the movement under intense pressure. The Submariner quickly earned the respect of both professionals and enthusiasts. Even today, its design remains one of the most recognizable in the history of watchmaking. Some products follow trends. The Submariner became the trend. As commercial aviation expanded, a new challenge appeared. Pilots crossing continents needed to track multiple time zones at once. Rolex developed the GMT Master to solve that problem. Its additional hour hand allowed travelers to read 2 time zones simultaneously. Originally created with international pilots in mind, the watch soon became popular far beyond the cockpit. Business leaders, diplomats, and frequent travelers all embraced it. The GMT Master reflected a changing world. A world that was becoming faster, smaller, and more connected. Speed presented another opportunity. Professional racing drivers needed a watch capable of measuring elapsed time with precision. Rolex responded with the Cosmograph Daytona. Its chronograph function and tachymeter bezel made it a practical tool on the racetrack. At first, sales were modest. But over time, everything changed. The model became closely associated with actor and racing enthusiast Paul Newman. Decades later, his personal Daytona sold for a record-breaking price at auction. What had once been a professional instrument became one of the most sought-after collector's watches in the world. Rolex wasn't simply creating successful products. It was creating legends. By the late 1960s, the Swiss watch industry faced its greatest challenge. In 1969, Seiko introduced the Astron, the world's first commercially available quartz wristwatch. It was remarkably accurate, battery-powered, and far cheaper to produce than traditional mechanical watches. Consumers embraced the new technology. Demand for mechanical watches fell dramatically. Factories across Switzerland closed. Thousands of skilled watchmakers lost their jobs. Many historic brands disappeared entirely. For the industry, it was more than a recession. It was a fight for survival. Rolex now faced the same question as everyone else: adapt or disappear. Many companies rushed to compete on price. Rolex chose a different strategy. Instead of chasing the cheapest technology, it doubled down on mechanical watchmaking. Every movement would be refined. Every case would be stronger. Every watch would undergo stricter testing. Rolex wasn't trying to build the most affordable watch. It was trying to build the most trusted one. That decision shaped the company's future. While others competed to lower costs, Rolex focused on increasing quality. And customers noticed the difference. As Rolex continued to grow, it invested heavily in controlling nearly every stage of production. From casting its own gold alloys to machining components and assembling movements, the company reduced its dependence on outside suppliers. Each part was tested repeatedly before a watch left the factory. This level of vertical integration required enormous investment. But it also gave Rolex something few competitors could match: consistency. Every watch represented the same standards, regardless of where it was sold. Behind the famous crown was a manufacturing system built for precision. Most luxury brands try to sell more products. Rolex took a different approach. Demand often exceeded supply. Many popular models became difficult to buy through authorized dealers. Waiting lists grew longer. On the secondary market, prices frequently rose above retail. Scarcity transformed ownership into something more than a purchase. For many people, receiving the call that their Rolex had arrived became part of the experience itself. The watch represented more than craftsmanship. It represented patience, exclusivity, and achievement. Rolex had mastered something that few companies ever do. It had made people want the product long before they could own it. Today, a Rolex is recognized almost everywhere in the world. You'll find it on the wrists of business leaders, athletes, artists, scientists, and explorers. For some, it represents success. For others, it marks an important milestone. A graduation, a promotion, a wedding, a lifelong achievement. Over time, the watch becomes more than an object. It becomes part of a person's story. That emotional connection is something money alone cannot create. And it is one of Rolex's greatest strengths. Even after becoming one of the world's most respected brands, Rolex never stopped refining its watches. Its factories continued to invest in research, manufacturing, and testing. Materials evolve. Production methods improve. Quality standards become even stricter. Yet, the company's philosophy remains remarkably consistent. Build fewer watches than the market demands. Never compromise on reliability. Protect the reputation of the crown above everything else. For Rolex, excellence is not a destination. It is a continuous process. Here's the interesting part. Most people don't buy a Rolex because they need to know the time. Every smartphone already does that. What Rolex offers is something technology cannot easily replace: confidence, craftsmanship, history, and continuity. A Rolex is often passed from one generation to the next. Long after its original owner is gone, the watch continues to measure time. In that sense, Rolex isn't selling hours or minutes. It's selling something far more enduring: a legacy. More than a century ago, Hans Wilsdorf believed that a wristwatch could earn the world's trust. That vision shaped every decision that followed. From the Oyster to the Explorer, from the Submariner to the Daytona, Rolex didn't become the world's most powerful watch brand by accident. It earned that position through innovation, consistency, and an unwavering commitment to quality. Time is something every person receives equally. But what we choose to build with that time is what truly lasts. And perhaps that's the greatest lesson behind the crown. Not how to measure time, but how to create a legacy that outlives it.